Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stubby!
I don't know why it does that. Every time when dates it just settings. Removes the settings for the microphone. And yeah. Anyway, hello everyone. I hope everyone's doing right. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. I'm sure there wasn't an episode last week. Sat down to do it after getting back from work. Back at 7. And I sat down and I was just kind of like, this has been but yeah, I just didn't really want to do the episode. Nothing really I could talk about, and ultimately it wasn't in the right space. Yeah. So I'll just talk about a few things today, and then we'll talk about the big one, which is Wednesday, because we haven't even mentioned that, right? We haven't even mentioned an episode because it's been 3 weeks. The updates that week, which is a thing, I guess. So we saw Simon leak some more information or reveal some more information over the last yeah, thanks. Over the last few weeks, we specifically saw them finally reveal Skyreach Bowman. Did you know it was Skyreach Bowman? You guys know that image, those models, Skyreach Bowman. I bet you didn't. You had no idea those were Skyreach Bowman. Don't worry, we've got you, Skyreach Bowman. That was a thing. The patch was actually announced first. Done on the same day anyway, on the 8th. They launched the patch. The patch is going to be this Wednesday, 21st at noon EST. Noon EST is 5 UK time or 6, 7 European. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. You know, I think it's going to be good fun. I don't have any words, right? I don't have any words because I'm kind of like, just tell me what's going to happen. You know, let me go over the patch and I'll yeah. I've not been thinking about the game. The only real things that I've done since 3 weeks ago is I have posted on 10 times and answered a few Reddit questions. Yeah, I just have not been through. I've not played a game for a month, I think. Officially on the 5th. Did play one. Thrones, but I've not played a logged game. And I'm kind of glad. I but I've not got a huge desire to come back either. Like I'm taking the break. I'm happy where I'm at, but I'm not raring to get a game on the table. You know, with a new patch, I'm not like, woo, let's go. I'm just kind of like, well, new patch comes out, I'll see what it is. It a little bit laggy? Is he actually bad? That might be better. That might be a little bit better now. Apologies. I set the noise gate to be different because I was I've had roadworks outside the house. When I say roadworks outside the house, if I stand up, the road runs like 5 meters in front of the house, and outside my window, yeah, I reckon. Yeah, it's literally just there. There's like a junction, and they've redesigned the whole junction. So it is literally just outside my house, and they've been digging up the whole thing. Huge amount of ironworks. So I had to kind of adjust all my mic settings for some work videos and things. So apologies. All right. Yes. Yeah, I'm not excited to come back yet. Obviously, the patch hasn't dropped yet, so there is that. You know, I'll be probably a bit more excited when it does drop, but I'll see what happens. You know, I'll look at it when it drops, and I'll be like, "Oh, cool! This is something I want to try or not try." And just something I want to have fun or not have fun with. I still have everything, but I've not even painted any free folk. Like, I mean, that's bad, isn't it? The last painting I did for Song was when I painted the Targaryens. So yeah, just not fussed at the moment. And I'm sorry for anyone watching who's like, "Oh yeah, let's get excited." I'm not in that camp. And that shouldn't invalidate how you feel. If you guys are excited, you should be excited. I am just not. And that's a me thing, and that's fine. So yeah. Freedom units data, of course. For the Americans who can't understand 5 meters. The roadworks were happening about 20 foot away from me. Now, I know that 20 foot isn't 5 meters, guys. More like 6 or 7 meters, but yeah. Remember when Carlo used to host Tourney Ground? I remember when Carlo used to be on Tourney Ground. Yeah, I know, right? Many moons ago. Yeah. I might see if Carlo wants to come on and do some stuff. An episode, maybe. Because he's got the invitation to talk about, which is one of the things I was actually looking up. Something little to talk about. But yeah. Has anyone heard any rumours on the patch? Yes, in short. Rumours, but nothing solid. And I'm pretty sure, Thomas, you'll know who the rumour is from, because the rumour was in the Patreon Discord for stats today. Although, you're not in the Patreon anymore, are you? I swear you used to be. Oh, well. There's something little if you're a patron. Oh, you are still in there. I'm just blind. I can't see names on the list. Yeah, if you're a patron on stats, friendly neighborhood person who is very in touch with the game and its community, posted a little snip bit on there. I can reveal to anyone who's not on the Patreon that get on the Patreon. It's great. No, I'm not going to say that. He simply said we will see more attachments on the battlefield every game, which, to be honest, is like a rumor, but at the same time I feel like it's something we all kind of expect because we've all been saying it for a while. If that ends up not being the outcome, I will laugh, but yeah, it's up to us. Data seems to be doing a lot of Legion and other things. Star Wars Legion or Legion Imperialis? Because we've got into Legions Imperialis, and I've actually now bought some stuff for it when I said I wouldn't. So I'm going to be painting up tiny little tanks. We have to wait till Iron Victory Crew and Skyreach are officially released to get them and add them to stats. Yeah, basically. In order for us to add them to stats. And when I say us, a very liberal use of the term us, I mean Carlo. For when Carlo wants to add them to stats, we need the ID number. The ID number is not anything that you have access to, kind of. It kind of is. It's the product code number. Sorry, it's not the product code number. It's a different number. the number that we need is the number that it gets assigned in the builder in War Council. Now, this was a decision by Carlo a long time ago. Basically he made the decision where it was easier to stick to the unit IDs and the IDs for a lot of different things, which is really good. The problem is that we need the IDs there in order to add them onto the site now, which previously wasn't an issue, now kind of is, because War Council gets updated now. It feels like a month after the release, or feels like that time. The problem being is the official release date and the actual release date are two different things. Where like Crownland Scouts only officially got released on like July the 12th, but actually was it July the 12th, or was it their official release date was when? I can't even remember now. It'll be on the Facebook if it's not in there. God, you can't even see what time it was supposed to be in the articles, can you? No. So if you go to the Facebook group, the official release for Crownland Scouts. Oh my god, it doesn't even tell you there. Holy shit. Oh, 2nd of August. Right, so 2nd of August was the official date for Crownland Scouts. But they wouldn't necessarily be on War Council until like this week. Or late last week, so it's like 10 days after. And 10 days after being the official release date is like a long time. Because they've actually been known about, including all the stats by this point, since the middle of June, not even July, right? We knew about these, the Rotterdam White Scars video came out in mid-June, and they can't be added to stats until July because they're not officially released until, can't be added till August because they're not officially released until August. That's like an insane timeline. For what is essentially just a product code. And that was a decision made, and I stick by Carlo's decision on that. I think he made it for good reason. But it does mean there's delays. He could move away from that in the new versions of the site. Wouldn't surprise me if he did. But that's where it stands at the moment. So that's why you see the delays that you see. Yeah, painting, gosh, horror, I know. And I'm bad. I said I would never buy a Warhammer product again, and I've been painting Underlords, or Underworlds, isn't it? Not Underlords. Underworlds stuff. In the meantime, so yeah, that's why they're not on release yet, Tristan. That's why they're not on stats. Let's see about season 5 then, or let's keep going through the narrative. Actually, I forgot about all the other news that happened, and I don't know if I'm the only news that people keep up with. Probably people keep their own news now and keep up to date with things. But we also saw some discussion on Crownland Scouts, some more stuff for Scourge Bowman. The official date for Iron Victory Crew has been announced. They've done articles on both of these things, which, by the way, is great. I'm glad they've done the articles. If this is what they're going to do for all releases now, then while the articles are not for me, right? I do not read these articles and care about them that much. I don't think there's anything useful on them for me, really. But I think the articles are good for the game, for the health of the game, for the exposure that Simon might want, and for people to get, newer players or people less connected to be able to read official documentation around these things. Big fan of that. So it needs to stay. It needs to keep going, even though I will self-admit they're not for me, and I don't particularly like them. But I like them for what they provide, rather than for my own reading enjoyment. We also saw them talk about Realms of Battle, and there was a discussion point I wanted to bring up about Realms of Battle, but they gave the dates for Asia and for Europe. Of course, the date for Europe has been known for a long time. Sign up on stats. Oh, look, there's a direct link to the stats website. Stopped being a bugbear. It just is what it is, which is, glad about. If it ever was a bugbear, that is. What's interesting is I was reading the Simon Asia information. You can see the Simon Asia Pacific region here. There's stuff in here that I thought was interesting. Tells you about the event. It tells you about the accommodation. It's interesting. It's very interesting. They've gone like full player pack here, right? Like this is like full player pack, which for anyone who like does their own events and like large events, like this is the kind of thing that most people produce anyway. So I'm not really surprised that this exists. But what's interesting about this was they went through the goodie bag and actually told people what would be inside it. Like, I think this is a really interesting decision. Now, I know that for many people, we would like tell them they get an opening on the door prize kind of thing, but this is really interesting. They've just been really open and honest with that. That I've never seen them do that, so yeah. They talk through about the events, about they've got singles tournament and then 3-man team tournaments. And they kind of explain how they work. Game modes, so they got the singles and the teams, obviously taking through that. There's what's interesting here is you send your army lists to them ahead of time, and they have to be sent to a Dropbox. So they are still refusing to use online systems. They are just going to use a like literal write your army list down and send it to me style. And that's interesting. I'd be very interesting to see how they do the pairings, because like a lot of people don't get Swiss right. But I'm not going to ever criticize them for that because it's not my event. But like we've seen US Nationals, for example, a few years back when Carlo was there, the absolute clusterfuck that was. So, you know, that's interesting. Makes you wonder if there's no one there who cares, then no one will be checking. So they just do their thing and yeah, no one cares. Anyway, that's just me. So what's interesting is that there is no note, from what I could tell, on here around the 3-list format that they'd used before, right? At least I didn't see it. Okay, unless I'm stupid. There's no. See, a lot of cost stuff in here, but I couldn't find. I genuinely don't know if I did find it, if I can't remember. It's been a while since I read this. I don't think. Let's try the Dropbox. Yes, that's just the lists. But that's got 3 lists on it. I don't know if you have to fill them all in or whatever. I don't know. I assume they use the 3-list format anyway, because they're used to using that. Here it is. It in here? Yeah, it's commander elimination format. So they are using the 3-list format, which everyone, of course, you know, everyone in Europe looks at this and goes, "Well, it's a bit of a joke then," because it's just not that good a format, and it's certainly not good for balance. But yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, loads of interesting information there. Loads and loads and loads and loads of stuff. More than Simon has ever put out for an event on their own, which I think is really interesting. Because this shot shows a marked improvement to the handbooks and like the player packs for Simon run events. Now, Asia's Pacific is run specifically through Simon, very much led by Joshua Zhang, otherwise known as Brick on Discord. And that's all public information, right? Everyone knows it's him running it. Everyone knows it's him who does all the outreach and things like that. And he's a public face for the game there. and he's been doing a lot more of this kind of thing. And that's a good thing, because this has moved it much more further to the direction of what we would consider standard. Like, if this is what Simon considered standard, I would look at Simon and say, yeah, you're doing the bare minimum for like running good events, and that's a good thing. I would even go as argue saying some of what they've provided here is above and beyond, but it's also, again, that corporate money coming through, such as like you're gonna get 150 quid's worth of stuff just by signing up and turning up. But yeah, it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. It's really interesting that they have this. I can criticize individual decision making. I can criticize that kind of thing. But in the end of the day, those are decisions that need to be made. Having this document is the important thing. And it's a good document, right? Like, it's good that they have it. I think it's great. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll get onto that Wardens as well. Edge. All right, I'll come back to that. So that's what they've got. They've got promos for both Europe and for Asia Pacific. They're doing these promos for the Realms of Battle, which does bring me on to the point of like, they're trying to source whether or not they can get them to US nationals, I believe. But again, like, how is it hard to get this stuff to these places? Don't get me wrong, I'm not an expert in like logistics, but it's not that hard. Like, it's something that Simon do a lot. You know, they ship worldwide. I can't imagine them sending another good to another country. It's that difficult. You know, and that's not to say that it's easy, but it's not hard. So anyway, those are the two events there. We also got the information here about Poland as well. What was interesting is I was looking at the Polish list, or Realms of Battle Poland, Realms of Battle Europe, I should say. Can't call it Polish nationals anymore. What was interesting about this list is I wanted to see how many players they had, and they've got 85 people who are signed up. Now, that means they've done all of the elements in order to pass through. 513 names on the list, right? Now, to put that bluntly, 513 is 171 players. 171 players signed up or on the waiting list, which is good. You know, what's their limit? They're looking at 300 here, assuming that's right. 170 is good. It will beat their last year's total, I think, but it's not like a massive growth. It's interesting. It's interesting. We'll see. We'll see. I'm excited to see how this goes. But again, you'll see absolutely no UK names on the list. And what looks like to be no... Oh, there is Titus. One French name on the list. I wonder if there's any in the waiting list, actually. I'm pretty sure I saw Chablot. Enguerrand. Oh, Ross. Put his name on the rating list. But that's it. Yeah, so like, just not a large contingent of UK French players. Some Belgium, some German, some Spanish, which is good. Italians, mix of other ones. So there are travellers, but they're not a huge number, and certainly some people you'd think would want to go aren't going. Yeah, so we'll see about that. So yeah, can't go to Realms of Battle this year. Fair enough. Enguerrand is French, yeah. I was interested because I know that these are different events, but I was interested in the Invitational, right? I don't need to advertise this anymore because this is capped at basically 100 players, and there are 90 people on the list, and he's got 10 people who are more than 10 people who are signed up wanting to come along, and there's basically a list of people that he has who he will let onto the event. based on a few criteria and what happens this year. It's very interesting though, because 90 players is more players than have actually successfully signed up for Polish nationals. Now, it might just be that they haven't signed them off yet, but they do sign them off relatively often. It is nowhere near the 170 if everyone turns up, but I did just think that was interesting. Yeah. Realms of Battle hopefully will be great. You know, the organisers and things apparently put on great events, so I can't. I've never been to Poland and played in Poland. Well, I've been to Poland. I've never played in Poland, so I can't comment. And I'm sure the people who say they have done have said it's great. But yeah, just not that bothered myself. Yeah, weird one. I just don't think it matters. Really weird. I just don't think it matters. Yeah. I don't. Credit to whoever wins, but I just don't care that much. Like, yeah, just like a national tournament. It's like Polish nationals. Sign up for Polish nationals. Come along and be crowned European champion or whatever. Cool, awesome. Said that before, but I'll say it again. Just not fast. Yeah. Anyway, I'll get back to some things that people have been asking. What do I think of Crownland Scouts? Crownland Scouts are great. Fully recommend Crownland Scouts. You will like them. People saying about the US Nats is the earliest of the events. It is the earliest of the events. I agree. It's not really an excuse. If any of this has been in the work for any period of time, then they've known about US for just as long. Like, if they can't get them to the US because of the production timelines, that's a different matter, and you simply include that in your communication. You say, look, these aren't going to be ready by the time US Nationals hits, but don't worry, we will get to the next event. And people just go, that's fine. They weren't produced ready in time for that event. Like, that's not a big deal. Rather than not providing them and not addressing that you've not provided them. I don't know. It's just a weird one for me. How is this a problem first? Is when they originally put in the order for these models, they're not bringing... Yeah, I don't know. They say exactly as Data said that. It's an issue they created for no reason, rather than creating the issue or acknowledging the issue but not creating it. Brute says, one day I'll get my email for my qualifier info that I got at Adepticon. Yep. Exactly. I'm not that fussed about the US. The US is only one country in the grand scheme of things. But I do think it's very interesting that now... I mean, I told you all, didn't I, that I signed up for Organised Play UK or Organised Play Europe, and I got an email saying that my details would be passed along to Asmodee after they said that War Factory would be taking over Organised Play. So that was a lie. That was a defunct lie. And when we said, oh, the UK's not on the list, oh, we'll add it to the list. There was a few other countries, I think Germany wasn't on the list. Then we added them to the list, and then when we do get through and we do submit our thing, they send us to the different people anyway. Like, again, there's just an element of, like, just you're not being honest up front with this information. And ironically, it's not that the information is bad information. It's the fact you weren't honest with it that's the problem. But that, look, I'm not going to be negative. That is just what it is. But yeah. US Nationals just around the corner, and limited information about that released. People still wondering. I know that Josh has kind of taken over control a bit more of US Nationals, but still really limited information on that. As the only other event, the only other major event even that's CMON organised, right? So CMON organised US Nationals and Realms of Battle Asia. Then CMON / Josh, basically, Josh organises a lot of events in the Asia Pacific region, but in terms of like the actual core, like on your diary events for the world, if you will, US Nationals and Asia Pacific are the only two that CMON organise. So that's really interesting. That one of them is being done poorly, basically, and the other one isn't. Anyway, yeah, let's get my head out of that. I talked about the wrong stuff, and now my head's all over the place, and I'm angry. But yeah, the grand scheme of things, there's a lot in the pipeline. There's a lot coming up. Loads and loads and loads of information regarding events and obviously things in the future coming up as well. Hits and Crits doing various stuff. They've got their patch or events coming up in the next few weeks. We've had the online circuit has started up. Well, not started up, but is starting up. So this is a circuit of events which are going to be hosted online through both Sim and TTS, depending on the event, and will culminate in kind of like an online circuit where there'll be a finals thing. So check that out if you haven't already. Part of that is the online circuit team is supporting with a few tournament organisers and kind of international, specifically Discord. If you're on Discord a lot, you'll know the names, but a lot of international kind of names that people will know coming together to basically sort out a newer version of the community FAQ, whereby it can be something that actually a lot of people agree to, a lot of people see, commonality in it, and then people can scrutinize those rulings. But that's coming together. And yes, before anyone asks, the community FAQ will be used by a lot of events, I believe. And it will be accessible online. They'll also be open to discuss certain rulings as well. It's not set in stone. If anyone has a burning reason why a ruling has to be different, then that exists. But also, it's the first time, well, not the first time, it's going to be a document that directly ignores rules as written. And when I say directly ignores rules as written, in that if something just doesn't work raw, or it sets a precedent that's just bad for game health, then it will change it. The best example that anyone can bring up at the moment as a perfectly good example where game health and rules are basically debated was if Dragons roll a 6. If Dragons roll a 6 with precision, then technically speaking, Dragons don't score a hit, they create a wound rather than a hit, and that means the attack didn't generate any hits, which means the Dragons don't do their D3 plus 1 whatever wounds. Still does wounds because it converts to a wound, but if you rolled 1, 6 and a 1 with a Dragon attack, you'd do 1 wound rather than D3 plus ranks wounds. People think that that's a dumb ruling. People think that that's stupid. It is actually, strictly speaking, correct. That is the right way to play that interaction by the way the rules is written. But it's also really stupid. It creates a bad feel for the game and is unintuitive for newer players. So there will be rulings like that which will be ruled on. And hopefully we'll see a bunch of stuff come through once the new patch drops. So yeah, that's a little snippet of some of the things going on in the background, various people involved in those processes. So yeah, season 5. Season 5 kind of kicks off on Wednesday. I don't know if I'm going to do a stream yet. I'm kind of in the mood to do one and read through it so I can get it all done in one go. Part of me wants to do that. Part of me wants to actually just join. So Hits and Crits are doing a roundtable event, which I don't know how they're going to moderate that or who they're going to have on. but half of me wants to just go into there and then use that and like record that so people can hear that. Or we might pop in over there during the stream to see what they're talking about and see what they're kind of going through, which might give me a bit of a break because there'll be other people on. I don't know. I haven't decided yet what I want to do, or if Hits and Crits want to do that kind of stuff, or if anyone wants to come on board and do some stuff. I've not really. The amount of thought that I put into it was about 5 minutes, which is not meant to be a good thing, but I just haven't been thinking about it too much. We'll do something. I'll do something. So that's season 5. Why not have a round table of my own with Blackjack and Hooker's Cut? I could do. I don't need to steal their idea. And I know when they post it up, they're like, people, they put it on first, so you feel a kind of like a kind of like, oh, they did it first, I'll let them have that spot kind of thing. As a content creator, I am a big fan of like, if someone else has got content at that time, you respect that. Because there's not that many of us in this particular part of the industry. And we don't need to compete. Like, we shouldn't be competing for views. We should be providing information and linking in. And I'm not saying that combined approach, everyone does it their own. But like, I don't know, I just feel like it's a bit of respect kind of thing. But yeah, yes, we'll see. We'll see. Hey Bob, long time no see. It's been nearly a year, Bob. Nearly a year since I last saw you. Because when I was in America. You love hearing people talk about the game. Good, Brute, because there's a lot of people who talk about the game. Too much, myself included. Shall we have a target clarification update? So the problem is I'm not going to get into talking about targeting too much because I could be here for donkey's years. Targeting isn't about an effect having an effect on something. It's not about something changing or something happening to something. That's not an effect for the purposes of targeting, or that isn't targeting. An effect happening to something can happen without that thing being targeted. Targeting is all about choice, mostly. Now, there's a whole kind of remit thing with targeting as well. But targeting is very much a case of not are you choosing or are you making the decision is bad, but are you specifically picking this thing out? I always imagine it in sets, and I've never really had, I don't think anyway, I've never really had any major issues with targeting in the game. That's not to say targeting is a bad thing or like it's well written. It's not well written. It's bad. But I've always thought about it as set theory, basically. Group theory, if you want to call it that. You generate a group, and then if you are asked to pick something from the group, you pick from the group regardless of how many elements are in the group, and you are picking, therefore it's a target, right? For example, target one sheep, or I group all the sheep together in the world, and I target one of them, so I just pick one from that group of sheep, and that's the target. That very straightforward example there. Other times, you're not asked to pick from a target group. What you're actually asked to do is apply an effect to everyone within a certain group. And this was really, this is how I've always thought Stan United Brothers worked from Night's Watch, because of the use of the terminology. You create a set of donor units, then every donor unit donates between 0 to 4 models with a total never going over 4. So for those of you, again, in group theory or using matrix maths, you'd say the size of the magnitude or the size of the set is no greater than 4. And that could be 100 elements with lots of zeros and then 4 ones. It could be 99 elements of 0 and 1 4. It could be an infinite number of zeros with some number adding up to 4. So that's how I've always thought that Stand United works, kind of thing. So I've never really questioned how it targets and how you should decide the targets, because I've always pictured it that way. Which is difficult to try and explain to somebody properly. And maybe I am wrong. You know, I can be right some of the time by not being right any of the time, right? Like, well, I'm not right all the time. So I'm willing to accept that I probably have been wrong with targeting at various points. And on the fly decision making, you might think, oh god, I got the targeting wrong, it's not that, it's this. But yeah, in general, following ideas like that. Hobbit says, alright, Mickey. Alright, Hobbit. So yeah, anyway, I won't go into the details. Whole thing there that needs clearing up. And I do agree targeting needs clearing up. Let's put it like this. Seaman aren't going to do it. If you think Seaman 5... if you think Season 5 is going to have updated information around targeting and a good FAQ, you're not right. I can tell you that straight up. Something would have to change for that to happen, because things like targeting have never been changed since the game started, really. I doubt they're going to amend that now or like make it clearer. They might, but I doubt it. Make Mickey wax poetic about targeting for 5 minutes. Yeah, that's a thing. You say why the attacker suffers is not targeting the attacker. Basically, because they might be the recipient of the effect, but you didn't pick that. The attacker suffers is just the attacker suffering X, Y, Z. It has nothing to do with the unit that's making the attack. What? But it is. It's the attacker. No? The attacker is a generic statement that something is for that thing to happen. For that thing to happen, there must be an attacker. That does not mean that you are picking them to receive the influence of the effect or to receive the impact of the effect. You are simply playing it to a timing trigger, and there is something within the context of the effect that cares about the attacker, which must be true because of the timing effect. A bit of a logical jump there, but anyway. Targeting is yeah. Targeting's a nightmare. And trying to explain it to players is actually a nightmare as well. Especially if it's not their first language, which is another problem. And that's not a dig at anyone who is not an English speaker. The rules were written in English, and well, they're presented in English, I should say. And I am well aware that their things do not translate well. Sometimes I wonder if the game rules were actually written in a different language, have then been translated to English, and that's why there are these little inconsistencies, because the terminology used in the other language makes sense and is consistent, but in translation it doesn't. I always wonder that, because I've seen that happen in other games, and actually that's a not uncommon thing to happen, so it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah. What am I looking for in Season 5? Well, I know that attachments and commanders are probably going to be more prominent. There's going to most likely be more attachments, which in my head means making more attachments free or giving more things adaptive, which wouldn't surprise me if every expensive infantry unit got adaptive, for example. Yeah, I don't know. The truth is, Booze King, the truth is, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the game to be exciting. Does that answer your question? I don't really know what to add to that. I'm looking for the game to be exciting, to be fun, to have more mystery in it. And when I say mystery, I'm not saying like, oh, there's this mystery or not mystery, but like the scope of the game is quite small nowadays. Carlo actually summed it up really well. Earlier today, he said, and this is a quote from Carlo. He wrote this in the Patreon chat, which is why I feel comfortable saying this is what he said. He said it years ago, but maintains that it's still true, and we're finally seeing the full ramifications of this statement, which is when 2021 neutered both the faction and commander tactics cards to make them all a lot more balanced, they lost a lot of depth and character of various armies. So the game is more balanced than ever before, and mechanically, it is exactly what it has always been. But there is very little for them to do or places to go because the game is so unit focused. And you can't do anything exciting with a unit unless you make it limited. Otherwise, the balance is just thrown straight off by people using 2 or 3 of them. So what he's saying there is basically game is balanced, the game isn't fun or exciting, and the design space, because of the direction they've gone in, is actually ironically more limited than ever by their own design choices. That's where we're at, and that's what I hope will change for Season 5, is that Season 5 opens the design space, and I don't think it will. I really hope it does, but I don't think it will. Roots Punt says, want exciting. Every start of round, grab a passerby who chooses a zone on the tactics board, and both players get the bonus of it immediately. Yeah, obviously that's like, there's a difference between exciting and absolute chaos. That's like absolute chaos. I think, and I would argue that if you did that, Brute, that most people would pick swords. With no context and you just gave them the 5 images. Do you want man on horse, what looks like a messenger? I always think of that when I see that image, is not just a person riding a horse. I think it's like a messenger sending a message to battle or something. That's what I always think about. Swords, cross swords, letter, a money bag, and a crown. And if you just said them without context about any pictures, I bet people would either say swords, maybe crown or money as well. But yeah, that's a really interesting case study. Be interested. Actually, on that note, a little bit about chaos versus randomness. And you may or may not know this, everybody, and I'm not asking you to do it now, guys, because if everyone knows, then it breaks the thing. But I'm about to ask you a question, and I want you to remember, or to be honest, hold the first thing that comes to your head, right? The first number that comes into your head after I ask you this question, which is pick a number from 1 to 10. You've already got one number. You've already thought about it. You're not allowed to change it. You've already got it. Right? The vast majority of people will say 7. That is not random. And the spread of numbers is not random. It's predictable and what we call chaotic. I can't tell you what any individual person will ask, but I know for a large enough sample size that this percentage of people roughly will pick this. This number of people will pick that. So yeah. Predictable results. And you could do that with the tactics board with that idea, Brute. Sorry to math it out for you, buddy. You pick 7, says Hobbit. Yep, majority of people will pick 7. 7's the most common number picked between 1 and 10. There's lots of reasons why, and I won't go into that. But yeah, 9, 8. Yeah, the thing is that you can pick whatever you want, right? And not everyone will pick that. But most people will pick 7. Kurt picking 7, yeah. You can do this on small groups and laugh when you get it wrong. But there's actually there's a sequence of numbers you can remember and actually go down the list and go, most people will have asked this, then this, then this, then this. And by the time you get to like the 6th number or 5th number, you'll have most people out already, which it should only be 50% of them, but it will be most people. Anyway, there you go. So, where were we? Yeah, season 5. Post says, I don't really want to believe that being balanced or exciting are mutually exclusive states for song. Yes. Yes. It's alright, Brute. Hammer, red violin, yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? Is that like off the brush comments? There's a lot of interesting stuff that random off the brush comments link to. And look, I'm not going to sit here and wax lyrical and pretend to be clever in front of people. People probably already know that I like to pretend to be clever. But there's just loads of interesting stuff out there, and it always makes me think when we see an update coming around the corner, like how much of this applies to the normal person, if you will, the average, versus how much of this applies to somebody else who's not. The classic example, the nerf to expert duelist. Absolute classic nerf that everyone was like, amazing. You didn't see a drop off in the amount of Drogo played at all. In fact, made just everyone pick the 1 wound, and Drogo's win rate went up, I'm fairly sure. We saw people taking less attachments because what they'd done is they'd neutered a bunch of attachments. So people were actually taking less attachments after the nerf to expert duelist, which is really funny. Yeah, I don't know. There's just loads of stuff, isn't there? I don't think so. Going back to Post's comment, sorry, I don't think balance and excitement can exist mutually exclusively. I think you can have balance while also be exciting, and I think that it's okay to have imbalance if it creates excitement, if the imbalance is balanceable, if that makes sense. You know, a very good example was like old Baratheons. Baratheons used to be crap, like utter crap, but then newer players would lose to Baratheon every time because they had no idea how to beat it. And the answer is that don't attack. Like you were attacking it before, whereas if you just use your speed, get there first, and then wait there for them to attack you, you can just retreat all day and they can't ever win. With the units they had at the time and the kind of stuff they had. So the average result is like, oh, Baratheons are really good. The kind of optimized result is Baratheons are virtually unplayable competitively. It's about happy medium. And you can get happy mediums where things are more difficult or easier or harder to use. But actually, usually that's down to the quality of the piece, which is another thing that people forget. And a hill that I unfortunately will die on. It's one of those. But things are not necessarily easy or hard to use. things are either just good or bad more or less of the time. You not understanding how to use something doesn't make it easier or harder to use. The easiness or the hardness of something to use comes down to the understanding of what it's supposed to be doing. And if you understand what it's supposed to do better, you are a better player, and thus the thing you are using you will get more value out of. People get the value out of things that are easy to use because they understand the strategy more, not because they are good at the game, right? They are good at understanding that element of the game, therefore use that better. A lot of it is personal skill, which dictates whether or not something is good or bad to use, or the quality of the thing you're using, if it's actually a good or bad piece in the game. That's also what makes it easier or harder to use. So yeah, rip brute, and then you lost every game. So yeah, like, I want the game to be exciting. I want the game to be a bit more explosive, and I know that people are looking at me like, what on earth? You want the game to be more explosive when you play like Squishy Free Folk or Squishy Targs and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I want the game to be a bit more explosive than it already is with Lance Cavalry. But I want the explosive nature to come from game interaction pieces rather than just, I put Lance Cavalry in my list. Like, I don't just want it to be, I put this thing in my list and that makes my units really good. Well, brilliant. Like, huge amount of decision making you did there. Like, fantastic. Amazing. Great. Can we move on? And that's, the game's not even unbalanced. And yet I still feel that way. I feel like a lot of it's just down to, similar to what Carlo was saying, it's just down to units you pick and how you use them. Your tactics deck is useful. It gives you useful tools and it's handy. Not that handy. Like, there are sometimes you just don't need the cards that you have to win the game. Yeah. Hey. Let's see. Let's see what it's like on Wednesday, and I look forward to seeing the notes, seeing what kind of things we've got in store, seeing what fun we can have, because I hope that it creates fun. I also hope that whatever it does invigorates people, because I know, at least in the UK, that the old guard, you know, people like myself, Carlo, the Chris Eustaces of the world, you know, people move on. Steve, but the UK circuit of the 3 big events, the 4 big GTs kind of thing. Yeah, 4 big GTs now, not 3. They're just not getting traction. They're just not getting traction. 1-day events here and there, local community stuff, actually really popular. The big 2-day events just aren't popular. They're not working for the scene. And it makes me think that the competitive side of the game is struggling in the UK. And it's not to say you can't be competitive. Competitive is a mindset, not a state. But when I talk about the competitive here, I'm talking about like the tournament scene. And the tournament scene is drying up. Like 1-day events will work and you can run them nearly anywhere. But just 2-day events won't work. So you're always going to be capped on the size of the event and to some extent the quality of the event. So yeah. This is what it is. I hope that it reinvigorates that. We shall see. Alright, guys. I am virtually falling asleep here. I'm talking to you. My eyes are tired. Been a long day. Going to be another long day on Wednesday. Great. And then an even longer evening. And I'll get some tea or coffee in me to keep myself going. Some proper sleep Tuesday night. We'll see. But yeah, let's see what season 5's like, eh? I would say there's a bunch of tournaments coming up, but season 5's on Wednesday. We've got Russia, Poland, Russia, Poland, Russia, the US, Mount Prospect, Illinois. Dave and Warns of the Midwest. Tabletop Warfare, Australia. Nice. Prospect. I'm guessing it's a prospect game. The prospectively looking there. I don't know. In Prospect, SA maybe. I don't know. Madrid, Hungary, Poland, LA, the US, WV, West Virginia. Wow, my mind really is gone. West Virginia, US, Danish nationals in Denmark this weekend. Danish nationals ? Wow. The online circuit starting up as well. Lexington. US, Thailand, week after. Anyway, a few events there. Lots in the US. Obviously Poland and Russia as well. Warhammer releasing done anything to the player base? Maybe. Some people have gone to Warhammer. I actually think the simple truth is that people in the UK no longer feel attracted to the game. So, yeah, I just think it's just not. Yeah. I think people aren't buying in. That's not to say there aren't new players. There are new players, but there just isn't a big buy-in to the game right now. Do I vote 2 list or 3 list? As a way of playing the game? 2 list. I mean, 3 list is fine, but it depends on the terminology you're using 3 list. If you mean 3 list elimination method, like, that's just terrible. Like it's unbelievably bad method of playing the game. Not because of round 1, where there's just a ton of shit you can pick from and everyone picks whatever they want and whatever. But it's round 2 is just 2 list format. Like literally 1/3 of your games are the normal format. 1/3 of your games with 3 list are just the normal format basically anyway. And then you've got 1 game in every 3 which is just, well, what lists have you not played? Because now you're stuck playing that against whatever it is that your opponent is playing. And if you drew someone shit in round 1 and got to play your shit list in round 1 and beat the living daylights out of a player you are far better than in round 1, whereas the player you're playing against, they in round 1 had to play against the hardest, the second hardest player at the event, and they managed to beat them, and now they're stuck with their crap 3rd list or a completely terrible matchup for round 3. Well, fuck that shit. They've lost. What happens if you play against the same faction 3 times in a row? I played against a Lannister, and a Lannister. So I should have made 3 lists that can deal with Lannisters. Every single list I played was exactly the same. So I should have just played the same list 3 times, but I can't because it's elimination format and I'm not allowed to do that. And people think oh, but that doesn't happen. It literally happens. 2 years in a row, I played 6 or 7 games UK Nationals in LGT, and both of those events I played 4 or 5 Lannisters, all of them running the same list. I played Kev Bows 4 times that tournament. No joke. I might be lying. It might be 3. I played it 3 times in a row. Right? It's a thing. It happens. People do it a lot. Actually, I played it twice in a row. I then played a different Lannister. No, I played it 3 times in a row, actually. I think. Yeah. Then I played a 4th Lannister in a row. I played 4 Lannisters in a row that event. Only one of them not using Kev bows. Well, they had Kev bows as their list, they just didn't use it. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, it is miserable, Brute. Like, 3-list format is just, like, honestly, just... 3-list elimination format just is miserable for someone. But most of the time, people don't realise it until it happens. Because they don't think about the ramifications it can have. There is a reason. Admittedly, he is one of the better players in the region, but there is a reason that Van won Indonesian Nationals or Realms of Battle Asia last year after he approached me and said, what list building would you suggest? And I basically gave him a massive breakdown of how to abuse 3-list format. And then he went and abused 3-list format and won the game and won the event. Like, it really was that simple. Now Van's a good player as well, but like the theory that we have and the ideas that we have do hold up in this game. So it feels like a lot of competitive players shifted to TTS in the last last year or two instead of live events. I haven't seen it to such an extent in any brand of Warhammer. Yeah, that's not really true. The most competitive events, kind of COVID time, were all on TTS as well, of course. I think what you're seeing now is you're seeing a very kind of selected group of online players who aren't the same people that we saw a year ago, right? A year ago, you'd expect to see like the likes of myself and Mikkel play on like a lot of events. Maybe 2 years ago, I would have been on nearly every online event. Similarly with Mikkel, Suster. Some of those people are still around, Suster and Wop. You've seen a few new people come in and a few people leave. I don't really play much TTS myself anymore. I can't be bothered. I don't enjoy it that much. It's not to say I don't enjoy it, actually. I just don't... I don't particularly want to, is in truth. Yeah. We'll see. Live events as well. We've seen... There's the qualities there's still there in live events. It depends what you mean as well. Warhammer also doesn't have a very good TTS scene, so it does kind of, but Warhammer are much more likely to litigate. And the thing is that you can play Warhammer down your local store anywhere in the UK. I mean, I'm no word of a lie. The part of town I live in, I could probably walk to the local community centre, and if they don't have a Warhammer night there, I will find someone nearby that does. I know that I can go into the town centre rather than my little village hall. I know I can go and play in the town centre on not every night of the week, but I could probably arrange to meet somebody any night of the week and play at a local store. Like, Warhammer is so prevalent in the UK, it's unreal. Yeah, like my brother-in-law, he's just got into painting Warhammer in the last few weeks or months. Doesn't play, but he paints Warhammer. He's probably never played a war game much at all in his life. He paints Warhammer. I could probably ask for him for a game if you wanted to, and we could play like a bad version of the rules. I could teach him the rules, but that's my point. Like, it's so prevalent. It's unreal. Boltons will receive any buff. What do you think? Boltons will get a buff, I hope. I have no idea what it is. Could be that they completely change the units. Could be that they completely change the style of how they function, the base deck. For all I know, they're going to completely overhaul commanders and maybe some commander cards, maybe some deck stuff. I don't know. I actually can't conceive an idea. I mean, I can conceive ideas, but none of it's going to be right, and it just seems pointless to speculate randomly when I'll know in 2 days anyway. I know people say it's fun, but I'm too tired. I'm sorry, Powerlifter Troglodyte, who I'm guessing is Chris FNM, but it might not be. Question: what do you think about if players came to the table with a declared faction but made list after mission was decided, similar to old Malifaux? You could do that. So if you're saying they make one list when they come to the table, depending on the parameters with which you let them set their list, that just very much benefits the better player. Like it's just another thing that makes a better player more likely to win. I used to say this a lot, but if you give me a list, like I actually don't believe you can do this all the time, but generally speaking, if you give me a list that you think is good, and then you tell me, you know, and then you let me, sorry, pick a faction to counter your list, I can probably just pick a faction and build a list that beats your list 100% of the time. Like, and that's not to say that it can beat it 100% of the time, but you can tailor list building and strategy to lists really, really hard in this game. Like, way harder than people realize, and it's probably something we don't talk about enough. But that tailoring of answer is really fundamentally possible. And if I know the game mode, and I know your faction, and I know what you've brought to the table, and what you're likely to use, you know, it's like the old Bart Simpson, Rock never fails me. Oh, good old Rock. If you don't know the meme, you should definitely look this meme up. But it's, hey Bart, do you want to play a game of rock, paper, scissors? Oh yeah, we'll play. Winner has to do the dishes. And then Lisa's thinking, and it's like, he always picks rock. Oh, paper, how you'll forever be my savior because Bart will always pick rock. And then Bart's just thinking, oh, good old rock, it's never failed me. And it fails him every time. That's the problem with building the list at the table, is that someone with a lot of experience will beat somebody without much experience before the game's even started. And also it limits people's collections as well. So that's the other thing. Everybody is limited by their collection. So I can only, in theory, I can only play with the models on this shelf. I could, you know, buy some stuff like I did for Targs. I could go and get stuff, but it would have to be here, right? If I'm at a store, I'm limited by what I've brought. And that all of a sudden turns it into a money game. Not from the perspective of, oh, I don't have this thing, this toy. Because you didn't need that toy to have that as a potential option before I came to an event. I didn't know you didn't have that before you came to the event. So I have to plan around you not having that. You turn up with your free folk army and you've only got one raider and one trapper and a bunch of giants, and then we get to make the list at the table. I'm going to kill you because you only have one real set of list viability options. So I'm going to murder you because I know how to counter build you. And before anyone moves into the idea of saying, like, oh, is that feasible? Could you not keep it hidden? You can't, because people, like, I play against you round 1, and then my friend gets beaten by your friend round 2. Well, we can just tell each other what they had in their lists and what was in their boxes when they pulled it out. So people scout each other. And that's a thing in other games, by the way, that you scout what other people are doing. And that actually breaks the system, because then it's not hidden information anymore. Anyway, that's just me going over the top. Post says, Old World has been very popular. It's amazing how popular it is considering what kind of a mess of movement rules are. I just couldn't take it seriously after playing Song. Yeah, I mean, the Old World has no... I'm just not... I don't care. I saw one playthrough of it and I was hopelessly unenamored. I thought it looked a bit bad. It's a shame. I need to let the dog out. I don't know what I'm going to talk about when I come back. Probably nothing important. If you log out now, I will see you on Wednesday. Maybe there's something I'll think about while I go up and downstairs. What a nightmare. It's mildly raining outside, and the dog hates going outside to the toilet in the rain, so she gets really miserable. Isn't that right, you? Pain in the butt. Anyway. Wait, there's a dog. Yeah, there's a dog. There you go. I really enjoyed Old World, but Song is a different beast for me. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an Old World kind of guy. I enjoyed fantasy because I like the lore of fantasy originally, and I like some of the elements. I can't get on board with Old World. It's just not for me. This is like a monochrome painting. Of course, you project your own renderings and onto a silent and still stream. Yeah, definitely. So that's how that hallway looks like. Yeah, it's just a normal hallway, and the stairs are there. Bizarre. That door at the end of the hallway is my toilet, so I have to be very careful when I'm streaming because sometimes at work I turn my background off for various reasons and I forget to close my door, and my wife goes to the toilet. Not the wisest thing, or she'll come out from having a shower. Not the wisest thing in the world. Very, very stupid. So I have to be very, very aware. I've been cold on Song for over a year now, says Scorched Earth. Took out 40k when the Leviathan patch launched and found dozens of people near me that play 40k. Yeah. So, Song has no traction here in my area. Yeah, that's not a feeling that goes amiss. A lot of people share that, Scorched. Looking forward to the update. Yeah, I think, we'll see how it is. It does feel dated data, and they haven't improved the system, right? They didn't take fantasy and make it better with the Old World. They kind of took fantasy and made it a bit more like Age of Sigmar, which I don't think is better. And I don't like Sigmar that much. I think Age of Sigmar's not a very good game, and I know some people say it's amazing, but I just don't. I think I've not played. I've watched a few things on it, and I've dabbled a little bit. I think it's very basic. I don't think Underworlds is that good a game. The difference is with Underworlds, it can be over in half an hour to an hour. It requires minimal setup, and it's kind of fun, just fun to play. Even if it is a dice fest of randomness. Oh, I rolled a crit on my 1 defense dice against your 4 dice attack, and you didn't roll a crit. Lol. Get wrecked. You're a 4 dice attack. You plumbed a card into, did nothing. Great. Amazing. Will we ever get the Veil? Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Some people will say it already exists because of Shane from Boardman Gaming. Go and check out his army for the Veil on there. Anyway. I've been on for an hour and 20 minutes, which is longer than I thought, even if I did take a walk off. Thank you for everyone who did chime in today. I appreciate it. I just wanted to check in with you, make sure that you knew that I'm still here, I'm still alive, I'm still doing stuff, and we'll see how things go with the patch in a few days' time. On that note, there will be hopefully a series of videos coming, which I think I mentioned before, competitive play that myself and Larks are doing. So it's a joint combo with Hits and Crits. Going to be competitive games from myself and Larks playing against one another with the new patch, with a set of conditions set by the community. And yeah, we hope that content's going to be nice and good and fun and something a bit different that no one else has done. So yeah, did we ever do the Dervishes list challenge? We have it, and I have the results of it, kind of, but it seems a bit pointless now that the update's coming. Sorry. Although it was so soon. I'll try and remember to put a thing out about the Dervish challenge, because I've got some entries for it. I'll make sure I pick one. So anyone listening who wants to know who won the Dervish Challenge, I will go through all the entries and things and pick one out. So you'll know, and I'll let you guys know and see the list in the next episode. All right then, guys. Have a great night. Have a great few days, and enjoy yourselves. Keep playing, keep painting, keep chugging away, and I'll see you in a few days. Enjoy.
Ready? Aim!
There's too many.
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stop me!